Ladies and gentlemen, very, very good morning. Very good morning. It's a pleasure to be here with you all. Especially thanks to Amitabh to bring this to Delhi. Otherwise it used to be only a Mumbai affair. And we have a wonderful panel. And I don't know how many of you have gone into the LinkedIn or the background of this panel. Yeah, go into their education. There are two people from IIMs and two people from hospitality and hotel management. So one of the things that you should know if you're a promoter or a pioneer and you want to develop the next generation of entrepreneurs in your homes, just ensure that send them to hospitality hotel management course. They are likely to become a CEO. Yeah, it makes so much of a difference. Yeah, I think I must also compliment Amitabh and the whole team for getting this kind of a panel, because I just want you to understand the power of the panel so that when we start working on the next maybe 45 minutes to an hour, we are already short of time, we understand where we are coming from. So anybody here who has a plan to open 1,000 stores in the next 1 year? This side of the table.
1,000 stores in 1 year?
Yeah.
You already have 1 year.
I'm saying this side of the table, yeah. This side of the table, yeah. Okay. So therefore I am saying we have a panelist who I was told, there was a fly on the wall in their conference room which told me the direction is open 10,000 stores. Okay? So if any one of you can do a homework and come back to say, agar 10,000 store kholna hai, to kaun se jagah kholna hai, which city, which location, I have a gift for all of you. Okay? So that's one side. You have not a mall operator, but the chairman of the Shopping Center Association, which is all the shopping centers together. If Akhilesh has to open, or people have to open 10,000 stores, then you require at least 500 shopping centers minimum. So just yes or no, Akhilesh, is there a 500 shopping center in the pipeline?
Not really, but I think there's a potential. Looking at the data now.
So there is a potential.
There's a potential.
Okay. And how many developers are building currently?
Almost everyone.
No, how many shopping malls? About 100?
No, I think we are around 250 shopping malls which are active or decent size. Otherwise, around 650.
So if 250 shopping malls are being built and you require 500,000 to make the, Akhilesh will open 10,000 stores. But humko bhi to kholna hai dukaan, na? Only trends will not work. All of us also have to survive and work. So you require another 300 to 500 shopping malls to come up. Amitabh, go back to the time when there was a time when we had these kind of number of stores open. In fact, those of you who know Kishore ji, he had told Shishir Vaijal ki 1 saal mein mere ko 100 malls sign karna hai. Yeah. So what I want to tell you is that we are sitting in a very unique situation once again in India, where everything is looking bullish, everything is looking big, opportunity is large. I wish I get a chance one-on-one with Saloni to challenge her on that 50% e-commerce in modern trade. Yeah, I want you friends to actually take that, where Saloni said 50% of modern trade will be e-commerce in the next 5 years. I don't think there's any country currently in the world, Saloni correct me, which has even 30% as a country. As individual, I think we are 20-30%. So we have that opportunity today to talk. And of course, we have a young lady, 1 out of 5, who runs an e-commerce company. And one of the big things that I want to ask her before we start is, how many women work in your company?
70%.
70% of the women. Okay. I'm not getting into any D&I policy discussion, and this is not going to public.
So the joke runs in the organization that we actually hire men for diversity.
Wonderful, wonderful. So this is something I've been challenging our friend Amitabh for years. I think, kuch to karo yaar. Can we have in the audience at least 25 to 30% women? This is a fashion industry where we are catering to 55% women. Okay, run by 10% of boring men. You agree? He will not agree, because see, fashion mein, she's talked about all kinds of fashion. She talked about cosmetics, beauty, footwear. She didn't talk about beard as a fashion. So he cannot be a boring man. I mean, this beard, once upon a time it was measuring more than 15 inches. Now he's got all done up. Yeah, so we have a wonderful, wonderful panel. And if you look at the 3 words which the organizers have put together, purposeful, pioneering, and profitable. And I want to mold these 3 words by getting the consumers in and seeing if we can talk about the channels. Because 2 people here, Himanshu and Ayushi, are also into into channels which we all have aspired to. Okay, I mean, Snapdeal was a very early startup. So they've gone through their own goods and not so goods, but are coming back in a big way, and you don't know whether they would be the winners in the race, because finally having learned through that. So I think we have a wonderful panel. Before I start, I don't know whether you'll clap for them afterwards, but at least clap now for them, please. Okay, so let me start with you, Aishi. I think you're the youngest in the lot in terms of the companies also. All the companies are quite old. How does it feel when you are a startup getting into the fashion industry, and suddenly you have the Reliances of the world there, the bestsellers of the world, and the whole industry and fraternity thing? So tell me about you and your team's feeling of what you want to do. So this is the purpose subject I'm trying to get. What you want to do, what do you get the highs on, how do you celebrate, what do you do differently?
You know, it's such a long question, such a big question that, you know, I can talk for hours about it.
26 words.
I will keep it short. I started back in 2016, and pretty much the Reliances of the world and everyone existed. It was actually really scary, because there was genuinely a biggest question for me is that who is Ayushi, who has no technical background in apparel, no knowledge? Why will she come and crack this space? I think the DNA in which I was wired to say that if there is any problem that can be solved, then why can't it be me? And I think that's what made me take the jump and jump into this opportunity. The second reason for me to jump into this opportunity was, if you study all global brands, and I think we should all applaud ourselves, India has been destination of supply for all global brands traditionally. So there is now apt time for building India for India and India for the world in terms of brands. And very few brands have gone global coming out of India. So for me, it was an opportunity, a challenge that I wanted to give it a shot. And the question was, what's in it to lose? So I jumped, left the job, high-paying job, and said, let's just go into it and figure it out. As I entered into the journey of doing it, I should also acknowledge to all of you, it is so hard that I can't explain. I refuse to relive the last 5 years of my life.
It's worse than being in McKinsey?
Sorry?
It's worse than being in McKinsey as a consultant with 24-hour deadlines?
Yes.
This is worse? Oh,
yes.
Wow, wow.
It's exciting in terms of, you're building something from scratch. You're building a team which loves you, which is actually very purposeful. The core purpose of us setting up Fable Street was actually making real women feel beautiful and confident.
Just repeat that. Repeat that for all of us.
It is making women feel beautiful and confident about themselves.
Yeah. Wow.
And
so yeah. Clothing can actually do that. Making real women more beautiful and powerful, you said?
Confident about themselves.
Sorry, I shouldn't be using the word powerful. Yeah. Confidence.
So,
wonderful.
Yeah. So the idea behind this, and as you started this panel realizing, right, end of the day, 50% of workforce and 50% of the population is women. But very few are sitting here in this room and very few across, right? A lot of this comes from the internal sense of confidence, comfort in who you are and what you're being. So the larger mission and purpose for us at Fable Street and now 3 of our brands is actually that.
Wonderful, wonderful. I think we would like more and more organizations to take on that. But there's also an irony in the Indian business system. In Indian business, we are catering to the 15 to 25 of our population, managing the business with front-end managers who are 25 to 40. The companies are run by CEOs who are 40 to 55, and the board is 55 to 75. So I think this is what is, so we'll have to somehow, in our organizations of the future, bring younger board members. I'm not saying old is bad. I am 60 plus, so I'm not saying that. Amita will stop calling me next time onwards. But I think this is an important element that I'm picking from you. Okay, let's just spend 30 seconds each on the purpose part of it. How many of you get a sense that very clear purpose statements in the organization makes a difference? I'm talking of not vision, objectives, goals, but a purpose. Any one of you want to pick up building a purpose for the organization? Any one of you?
No, I can just add to what she said. I think unless you don't have a purpose, you can't put a vision or a mission also. So I think those are subsets of what you exist. I think it's the sole existence of why you are there. And what are you trying to do? I think when we entered India 14 years back, we started looking at what's in India. And India was an emerging market in terms of fashion. today the position of brands entering is much better than when we entered. So our sole purpose was to make India more fashionable, right? So that's the purpose that we started from. And then obviously you have visions and missions and that you keep chasing. But the sole purpose was to make India more fashionable. So if you look at 14 years back, you could handfully count brands and you will say which of them are fashionable brands. They are apparel brands, but they are not fashionable brands. So I think a sole purpose started from there. And then the core DNA of the organization, you build around the purpose. You hire the kind of talent you want to hire. You build the culture around that. And I think, so the purpose is very, very important. Some people will have an explicit culture, or purpose written, or some might be an underlining purpose, but there will be purpose. And some purpose could be all about making money. There's a purpose, end of the day. I think the purpose does exist, and there are these days new businesses where the purpose is to lose money, but make valuations. So that's also a purpose.
She also said, she very underlying, what she said? I left a high-paying job and started this. She didn't complete it to make much more wealth.
Yeah.
Okay,
So,
वो मैं complete कर दे रहा हूँ.
yeah. So I think that also is a purpose. Now, it is debatable whether it's good purpose, bad purpose, but it's a purpose end of the day, right? So our organization's culture and DNA is towards those 5-10x growth, because that's what's driving this D2C, which I hear a lot. It's the kind of money that is flowing into D2C, or you look at the share market valuation of these new commerce companies, it's crazy. Traditional businesses like us are still thinking, what wrong are we doing here, right? But that's their sole purpose. So I think the purpose definitely needs to exist, and I think it's very, very important for the organization.
In the evening when we meet for drinks, we will discuss about what wrong we are doing. Okay.
That's why we are sponsoring the evening cocktails, because
Sponsored by you. So you are going to take the mic and talk about it.
I think you'll say something very different. See, purpose, I'm an employee, I'm not a promoter. So the promoter decides what is the purpose, but let me tell you, the purpose remains making profits, getting ROI. That's the main purpose. What happens in between making investment and getting a profit? That's very important. How do you channelize that? How do you make sure that, the employees who are there, the customers, they get the right value? That's more about how they're getting trained. How do you serve the society in between? How do you make, as I said, make people more fashionable? How to make people more aspiring, coming to the mall and spending money? And, somebody who's maybe living in slum today, but today he said, he goes to store, he says, can I buy this after 5 years? So you're also trying to train those people, creating the aspirations. So what happened between making investment and getting profit, that's very, very important. That's what we need to channelize. And there the company stands apart. How this company is delivering this?
Very interesting. Akhilesh, what about you in terms of how you look at it? Is the purpose driven by the larger purpose of the Reliance Group, or you are able to drive the purpose separately? There's another mic there next to you.
Couple of things.
Yes, working. Go ahead. Yeah.
Okay, I think if we look at the history of the Indian economy, you will see a period between 1911 and 1921 when the consumption of fabric per capita in India declined. So after doing a lot of research on this, in Delhi School of Economics, it was realized because the fashion changed. What was the fashion change? People used to wear a pagdi, which was 5-6 meters of cloth, and the pagdi went out of fashion. Wow. So the per capita consumption of fabric crashed between 1911 and 1921. So I'm saying we shouldn't define fashion in the Western sense of the word. India has been continuously fashionable over a couple of thousand years now. So fashion has been at the heart of India. We have fabrics which have been talked about in history. At the end of the day, India got colonized because somebody wanted control on the muslin fabric which came out of India. So India has been a center. So it is about making fashion more affordable. It is ensuring that the millions or the billions of people who reside in this country are able to afford fashion. We shouldn't interpret fashion and fashionability in the true Western sense of the word. I think Indian apparel has seen continuous civilization. So in India, the change from women who actually account for 60 or 70% of fashion consumption anywhere If you look at Japan after they lost the Second World War, they lost their, it was a cultural change for Japan. And they took to Western wear, which led to the Japanese system of wearing clothes went into a decline. I remember in Tokyo, 2 or 3 years back, I was standing in the city center and I saw lots of girls going in kimonos. So I was standing with a Japanese artist who was doing a small painting for us. And I asked her, so she told in Japanese, which was interpreted, that none of these are Japanese girls. All of them are Chinese tourists. You know?
Wow, wow,
Okay.
wow.
So Japan kind of lost that. If you look at China, which is the other larger civilization in India, because of the Mao suit, almost 1.5 generations lost out on traditional Chinese fashion and hence took to Western wear. So if you see in the World Summit, everyone wears a suit. Narendra Modi does not. He wears Indian wear. So fashion has a much, and today you know what Modi has done to fashion in this country. So fashion is a much bigger word. Everybody wants to be fashionable in their relevant sense of the word. And I think even today, there are a lot more innovation happening in Indian wear than happening in Western wear. Western wear has very small changes. Indian wear has enormous changes, and fashionability is much
Not
higher
only
in
that,
Indian wear.
Akhilesh, if you look at Indian, you're talking of India in terms of fashionability.
It's a very different world. It's making fashion affordable for everyone. That's the mission.
So, okay, from your point of view, affordable is fine, but I think a lot of people would want to make accessible also, because otherwise everybody will talk
Affordable
about
and accessible,
Yeah,
yes.
yeah. No, but I just want to add a little bit, which I wonder why. I mean, one of the biggest fashion elements of color that the Indians use, especially the women, which is the bindis and the chudis, okay, not the bracelet, the Tiffany bracelet, the chudis, and how fast forward we are on fashion by using mehendis, where we can just bring in today and vanish it tomorrow and day after. I think these are some elements that we want. I'll come back to Ayushi. I just want to go to Himanshu because he's inherited a company where he has a history of online, which is much more than 10 years, 15 years, yeah. So you must have seen the organization going through when you've gone and studied it. Is there any purpose change that's happened in the organization from the way Kunal started and what he wanted to do to today? And how are you driving it further?
So let's just, before I come to that, I think let's just divide this whole e-commerce business in India into 2 phases, and then we'll come to the third phase. The first phase was very urban, very middle to upper middle class. Data was expensive, and therefore it was the first phase. And you had therefore companies largely doing mobiles, consumer electronics, etc., etc. This was the first phase, and actually the big revolution in India came in with the advent of Jio. Jio was the...
Thank Reliance.
Sorry?
Thank Reliance.
Yeah.
Of course. So with that came in the entire concept of humongous number of people coming into digital access and e-commerce access. Yeah, this actually democratized the access to digital and e-commerce, which was not the case earlier. And this also resulted in many of the things that we see today, many formats which are vertical specific, many of the D2C brands, many of the multiple other things, and the entire thing of certain horizontal players, yeah, winner takes it all, in many ways actually went down. This led to the emergence of multiple fantastic e-commerce platforms. And if you look at it, all of them have really come up in the last 4, 5, 6 years. Yeah. We are now in the middle of the third phase. In the next 4 to 5 years, 200 million more customers will come into e-commerce. Yeah, at least, if not more. But the news here is that an overwhelming 85 to 90% of them would be in the value segment. I think Saloni was referring to that earlier. And an overwhelming percentage of these would be from Bharat. Yeah? While a slide showed the 2 metro cities and multiple other cities contributing to X percentage, the large, humongous opportunity is actually in value segment and in Bharat. How do you service Bharat? How do you service people who are coming to e-commerce for the first time? It's a discovery process. It's a process of, in many ways, empowerment for them. It's a process of being with the rest of the digitized world. And therefore, how do you build experiences? How do you build access? And how do you build a range? Taking care of the needs of Bharat.
So
we talk-
how would you define your current purpose in the organization? Or do you have a purpose which is continuing from that time?
It is essentially to cater to the fashion needs of Bharat.
Wow.
That's what we are working on. It's work in progress. It's a huge opportunity, but more than that, it requires. So I'll give you one, or if you give me 1 or 2 minutes, I'll just explain. We need to talk to them in their own language, not just customer support. The app itself, it needs to be in that language. Customer support needs to be in that language. Feed needs to be intuitive. So we have a large team of data scientists. The feed needs to be intuitive. Yeah, they're not searching for anything very specific, unlike a metro audience. So how do we make that happen? How do you service pin codes? So we service 96% of the pin codes in India at a cost which is fantastic, sub 90 rupees. So how do you make all these things possible to serve Bharat in a manner which is unit economics positive? Because otherwise business will not work. Yeah. So that's our purpose.
So just tell me, let me go to Vineet, and then Ayush, you were wanting to say something. From purpose, let's move to the profitability, and then I'll come back to the pioneering part of it. I mean, do you think accessibility, value fashion, okay, and the cost in India will converge to profitable business? Or for a moment, God willing, it should not happen, if the tap of the investors stop, including, I'm saying, the biggies.
It's a major assumption, Nagesh.
I'm
That
asking a question.
Value fashion is less profitable. How did you arrive at that conclusion?
No, I'm not coming to that conclusion at all. I'm not coming. I'm asking him, saying, if you're making it accessible at a 200, 300, 400, 500, can a 90 rupees or 100 work out for that fashion? Okay, can the organizations become profitable? Because let's be very clear on something which is happening in the country. The country is getting polarized in terms of the business. The country is getting consolidated in terms of the business. And maybe 10 or 15 players look like will hold 40, 50% share of the market in the next 5 to 10 years' time. I think there are a lot of young people, a lot of entrepreneurs who want to set up the business. So I'm trying to create a framework for them. So help me create the framework that how does one look at profitability in the business?
So I'll answer it in two ways. One is I want to add up to what Himanshu was saying about Bharat. I don't know how many of you have heard this stand-up comedy act by Veerda saying to India, right? I think the same is happening to the retail part of India. There are two Indias. There's an urban India and then there's this Bharat that we talk about. And both have different business models that need to be built in. Each of them can be equally profitable, or I will say one could be more profitable. Low price does not mean not having profit. It's having larger volumes to cater to a larger market, and the business model needs to be tweaked accordingly. And I think there are pretty much many examples, and VMart is one of them. I'm sure we're going to soon hear from him also. Max Fashion or Pantaloon and also Reliance Trends. So the scale there is making profitability. So if you're going to be a niche player in that space, there's challenge because then the cost structures don't allow you to operate unless you don't scale up 5x, 10x quickly. The cost structures will not make you profitable.
Offline, because most of the players you're talking are still about 85% offline.
I think while I saw Saloni's slides and it talks about 50% e-commerce, I think there needs to be a balance of e-com versus retail brick and mortar. Currently, we are in the burn phase of e-commerce, and I think that's something which is worrying. How long is sustainable? If the big guys pull out, including the big guys of Reliance, I'm sure they also. It's going to be a nightmare for operators to start to sustain and run the website tomorrow morning because every day burning. I know Snapdeal currently is talking about unit economics and they are profitable, and I hear and I'm very happy to hear.
Also, we need also touch on the fact that almost all online players are wanting to go offline. I mean, whether it's a lens card, or everybody wants to go offline.
I keep saying this internally also. Strong brick and mortar brands are strong e-commerce brands. Strong e-commerce brands are not strong retail brands. So I think there needs to be a balance. There must be some, and I'm sure there will be enough entrepreneurs in this room, including the lovely lady sitting here, who will crack this e-commerce thing also on low price, and I'm sure they will find it. But I think the unit economics model needs to be fixed in a better way. The current way of that scale is more important than profitability, I think, is currently only chasing valuation. It's not long-term business.
So Ayushi, help us do this. One is online going to offline, and you are the only person there, and scale is more important than profitability. Okay, because there are a lot of people who may not have the ability to burn. I saw your background and you have not raised the 200 million, I don't know, with the 29 million you have managed, so whether you're not burnt or you've managed something, maybe McKinsey has worked you in doing that. How? And talk about one or two elements of unit economics between you and Himanshu which can make a difference. See, because even today, as per Saloni, let's say 88% or 85% is brick and mortar, but the media space and what's happening to the Indian consumer, 88% all of us think if we don't do online, we'll die. So many of us are concentrating on online businesses at the cost of the offline. Great offline businesses are suffering because the whole management is only thinking online. So there has to be a balance, so help us do that.
So, I mean, I think some of these are my perspectives. So let me first talk about the profitability when it comes to e-commerce as space. I kind of also agree. So we have not been an organization which has burnt a lot of money to drive the growth and this. As long as the investor money will keep flowing in, it's unfortunate, but that's the reality that the way the e-com organizations end up working significantly, and more so wave one, as Himanshu pointed out, that there has been significant burn to acquire consumers. There is an assumption and hope that this burn will keep reducing at some point in time, but we haven't seen that happen in 12 years of the e-com journey that we have seen. So it's going to be a personal call of all future entrepreneurs or existing businesses to take a call on how they balance the e-com journey of it. And it has to be a call that the businesses will need to take. We as a business decided to actually grow a little bit slower, but not burn. It was more because of the point of view of thinking through profitability from day one. We took all the aspects of fundamental business models still in place. Like in apparel, you cannot be selling anything under 65 to 70% gross margin. The day you do it, you will never build a sustainable or a scalable business. And then you hope that the marketing cost and the rest of the external costs will go down. So that's how we will need to think about profitability, and it's going to be to each its own. As long as the investor funding and the Chinese funding and across will keep coming in the space, there are a lot of players in the D2C space and in the marketplaces space. We will not see this coming down for a point of view, and that's my view.
That reminds me to the audience, in the last 10 years, Amitabh, we have never appreciated and clapped for the investors from overseas who helped us building the business. Am I right?
Yes.
I think they require a much bigger appreciation for pumping money into us to help us really grow. As an India, we need to be indebted to them. Yeah.
I mean, I also tell everyone that eventually in this, consumer is winning.
Yeah. Consumer is winning. There's no doubt
Like
about
when
it. For
Reliance-
those of you who, when she said that we decided to grow slow, okay, they just grew 5x. Okay, so just give you a feel, because we are all brick and mortar retailers getting used to 10% like to like, 15% organic growth and things like that. 5x is slow growth. Yeah, you had something to say, Vinith.
Yeah.
I think, I think there are fundamental differences to running businesses to what e-commerce is doing. I think e-commerce, the entire purpose that the first was changing the habits of changing habits is expensive. So obviously someone has to fund it. But I think the way in which we have tried to change the habits is by giving out too much, and I think that's hurting the profitability. It's not the unit economics.
You have to reach a balance.
Yeah, I think it's that the gross margin just does not exist to sustain the business. So I think some of the people have figured out. I think Snapdeal is one of them, and when I spoke to Himanshu also the other day, I was talking. I think there are people who are figuring out. I think Nykaa is one more which that needs to be looked at. I think they are doing quite decent job in that. So in both spaces, and I'm sure the Agios and the Mintras are also trying to do. So there are models. The only thing is it sustainable? Is it scalable? Is time that will tell? And there are businesses which have not sold a single piece are already $1 billion in this country, right?
Absolutely.
Yeah. So I think that's the challenge of where we're looking at it, and I think that's tempting a lot of people. This valuation unicorn thing, I think, and that's starting to concern because that's going to have a lot of pitfall, and that's when investors will become very scary about investing in this business, and that's not good for the industry. So I think that's something we'll have to balance out and see what needs to be done.
Himanshu, before you could go ahead and complete. I wanted to go to Mukesh and then come to.
I wanted to bring out two interesting aspects, I think, based on what we heard from Aishi and Vineet. And I think both these are interesting developments which are there. I think one of the things that we are seeing in India is a humongous number of D2C brands Yeah. And with the D2C brands, we are also seeing the emergence of Thasio kind of model in India, where you have these companies like Mensa and Goat, which acquire these companies which are started by sets of individuals, men, women, all across the country. And then they need to scale up and get their unit economics and the size and scale right. So therefore, whether it is performance marketing, whether it is optimizing of the supply chain, etc., these come in from these larger entities, the Thrasio kind of setups. So that's a good area that is emerging, which will solve a problem for a lot of the e-commerce only startups that we are seeing. The other aspect which is very interesting, and this is pertaining to us, but to anybody who's operating in Bharat, is essentially the prism that is being used by many people on loss making is largely because you are looking at brands. The moment you do brands, there's a immediate price comparison across platforms, and then it is race to whoever is giving the lowest price. Yeah? And that's, I think, what he was alluding to, because finally it comes down to that. It's the same brand. However, if you were to look at the Bharat opportunity that we were talking about,
Ready,
yeah,
reset, grow.
they are fairly
It's time
brand agnostic.
to write a
They
new
are
tale
coming
for
in
retail.
from
Put the
the
power
point
in the
of view of
purchase.
wanting
The
good
tough
quality
times won't deter
merchandise
us. Let's
at a decent
rethink
price,
customer service.
and they want
Industries are
access to that
converging,
merchandise.
lines are blurring,
Yeah?
impacting
And
the
that's
customer
therefore a different
journey.
model altogether
So let's
from
reset.
the other model where all the brands are across platforms and it's the price comparison of whoever is providing it at the lowest. So I wanted to just bring in those two aspects.
Mukesh, just tell me, as the chairman of the Shopping Center Association and somebody who runs very successful malls, are you all losing sleep that malls cannot become online?
Not really. I think we're very happy what's happening today. What I've been hearing from all the retailers that there's a great demand in almost every parts of the country. Today you have brands like Zudio or Max or Pantaloon or V-Mart. They have been opening everywhere. That tells us that there's a scope to open a mall even in smaller cities. It may not be as big as what you have in metro or mini metro, maybe smaller cities. The model maybe will have to tweak slightly. You don't have to make it very fancy to keep the cost down, where you can work on a kind of minimum guaranteed revenue share so that the retailers also get a benefit and customer can afford to buy from those stores. So I don't think with this
Ready,
there's an issue. In
reset,
fact,
grow.
to add something more to it, even e-commerce has really helped us today. We didn't know there's a customer sitting in Guwahati or smaller places. He's aspiring to buy things which was not getting it earlier. So when he got the access to, he started buying it. So there's a market there as well, and he'll be more happy to buy offline than online cases given the facility there. So retailers are opening shops there, but given a choice to all the retailers today, they'll be more than happy to open a store in the mall. And that's what I get from a lot of retail, because this is a little more organized, and they know this is being run by somebody who knows the business very well. So overall, I think it's a very good sign. So today it's not just e-commerce. What are the wallets have become bigger? Today, if you had, let's say, 1 million people buying, today it's gone to 2 million people. So the population has gone up, the people are buying it, that has gone up. So overall, I think it's a very good situation for the shopping center developers.
Okay.
They'll get into smaller markets also now.
So let me come to, yeah.
I think, let me take a contrarian view here. I think building an online business is cheaper than building an offline business. Okay. At the end of the day, there's a whole lot of investment going in fixed capex and working capital. Setting up one store versus setting up e-commerce in that town, physical retail is much costlier than online. Creating brands online is much cheaper than creating brands offline. That is why online is growing, okay? Even if you say, whatever, on a turnover of 1,000 crores, I lose 100 crores. So you capitalize the 100 crores, right? You would invest more in capital and working capital in an offline model than on an online model. Please understand, fixed capital in an online model is next to nothing, leaving warehousing and supply. There's no investment, there's only OPEX in the case of fulfillment. So online is succeeding more because it is cheaper to keep the customer supplied with that merchandise than offline. That doesn't mean that offline won't grow. brands and taste levels and fashion trends, etc., are conveyed better through offline than they are conveyed through offline. So demand generation will come through offline, but I think growth of the market may come through online. So online is not necessarily cheaper, not necessarily costlier. It is, in my opinion, it is a cheaper way to create brands and markets. And that's our experience. We have created giant-sized offline business, giant-sized online businesses. Both, and I can tell you, online is faster, cheaper, more efficient.
Yeah, the only challenge that entrepreneurs tell me is that the cost of capex versus opex. I agree with you totally. The cost of customer acquisition in today's world, okay, is what is probably hurting them. One, and second is not being able to build and draw talent in a small organization which can actually do that. I think these are the two challenges most entrepreneurs talk about. I want you to continue on this and just share a few things. How do you see 3 to 5 years down this whole mix of online, offline, e-commerce? And do you have a view, because I think you are the one who's penetrated the maximum in this country, of the changing consumer behavior? Anything sharp you are seeing in the consumer behavior?
I don't know. I think online, offline are merely channels. Customers buy product, they buy brands. So it's how you make it available. I think you have to make the experience very seamless. Today, I'm able to sell a product online, return it offline, sell a product offline, return it online. Technology should solve all these dilemmas between offline and online. I think the future workspaces is going to be online built into offline, right? You want to experience fashion, you have to come to an online place to try experience. But can you give them a digital experience where they can, look at 1 lakh options and have the physical experience of 1 lakh options? Those are the models that are required. So 3 to 4, 5 years, coming to Nagesh's question, I think the online, offline space is going to merge totally, okay? Each of our stores are omni-channel. Our stores every day pack more than 1 lakh units a day from stores to deliver to customers in their catchment areas. So, and that affordability is lower in smaller towns and all that. I think we tend to confuse towns with catchments, They're catchments. In South Delhi, there is a Saket also and there is a Madangir also. Now, Madangir is going to be much more like, a small town in UP, and Saket is typical South Delhi, South Bombay center. So we should talk about catchments and more about catchments and less about towns. And you have all kinds of catchments everywhere. You have small towns which have very fashionable catchments. Mukesh referred to Guwahati as a small town. I mean, I beg to differ. Guwahati is a monstrous town. It's a monstrous market. Today, I can tell you with confidence that Patna sells better than Calcutta for almost all brands. And that's the way the future of retail is going. Shillong, if you were to drive a couple of hours from Guwahati, go to Shillong, Shillong accepts better fashion than South Bombay. Okay, South Bombay cannot sell the fashion that Shillong sells. So let's get out of this mindset of urban, rural, affluent, large town, small town. It is India. India is diverse. You have to be able to cater to that market. Okay, and supply chain, I don't think creating a small town market is anyway costlier than creating a large town market. I think India is going to be one vast, seamless space in the matter of next 3 years, where you have populations of people residing in various catchments. You have to be able to cater to that. If you are not able to cater to that, you have a problem. And in this, when it becomes a seamless market, there's space for everyone. We talked about D2C. All these D2C brands will become active, right? They have reach today. When 5G is rolled out, it'll be seamless. It'll be totally seamless. A guy sitting in a village, I don't know whether movie halls will be required at all. I don't know whether offices will exist. I don't know whether there'll be ownership of any cars, whether there'll be ownership of homes. India, the world is going to change much more in the next 7 years than it has in the last 70 years. And these will come like quick.
So I just want to hold you there for a minute. Dr. Koshi is here. I don't know whether you have a, can you pass a mic, please? I think this is with so much of growth opportunity available, I want to just go to Dr. Koshi, probably the man who started off the whole education of fashion in this country and started off with a talent which started being built from NIFT. I just want you to express, how have you seen the talent, fashion talent moving from, when did you start the NIFT? 30 years back?
1987.
1987.
Actually 86, but
I think you need to
course.
stand. A lot of people don't know you.
Yeah, Nagesh has taken me by surprise, but it's a very good question. Talent acquisition.
Professors always took students by surprise. Sometimes students also have to get a chance.
Thank you so much. Yeah, great question. When we started in 1986, the NIFT first courses, which were evening courses, full-time courses got started in 87, 88. Then it was an urban phenomenon. But I think, I agree with you. Today it is like the Dhoni phenomenon. People from the small towns come and make it big. That's happening with, yesterday I was with the Rahul Mishra show. If you look at Rahul Mishra was from a very small UP town when he came to study in NID in 2003 when I was director of NID. And he was completely, a rustic boy and with great dreams. But today he's, rubbing shoulders with the best in the world. And that kind of a phenomenon, you can only do it in India. And Rahul Mishra on his own has inspired so many other Rahul Mishras. Yesterday, all the people were telling that thousands of students are now competing for the Generation Next. When we started in the Lakme Fashion Week Gen Next in 2006, it was so difficult to get good competing people. Yesterday, Mrs. Anil Chopra was telling me at the show, the opening show, that the competition is so intense that mentoring has become more critical. It is not about getting people. So I agree with you that with 17 NIFs, 5 NIDs, 400 fashion institutes, and departments of fashion in practically every university, and design BDES, MDES programs across the country, the situation is enormously different than 30 years back. And you can actually get very good people. Only thing is that combining numerics with aesthetics and creating that new generation of people is going to be a tough call, because most of them were very artistic in mindset earlier. But now you need to get a lot more business-oriented people, because that is what online business also now demands.
Yeah, so I think this was interesting. I wanted to bring the point of talent, Akhilesh. There's so much of growth that's happening. Do you see enough talent available, or do you think, because again, I think we should understand, all of us sitting here are all highly qualified people coming from houses, either funded, not funded. But India is also about a lot of entrepreneurs. They say entry-level graduate is 15 lakhs and 20 lakhs, I can't afford. So how do you see the talent? I mean, you must be hiring in thousands, all of you must be hiring in thousands. How do you see the talent, especially for the fashion industry, current and future in the next 5 years?
Okay, I agree with Doctor on rural versus urban. I don't see that as a divide necessarily. We have perhaps even globally one of the largest design, buying and merchandising organization. I employ more than 2,000 people in design, buying and merchandising. And more than 50% of them are from small towns. See, talent has nothing to do with the ability to speak English. Okay. If you get confused with the ability to speak English and talent, then I think we have the wrong tree. We have talent everywhere. And please understand that small town people are willing to risk more than large town people, because they have nothing for them back there. They are willing to take greater risks. Entrepreneurship exists more in small towns than in large towns. Ability to take risk is more in small town than in large towns. So you have to just give the path, and we have given that path. Most of our guys come from small towns. Even on the retail side, we give quick growth opportunities, okay? From a floor level CSA to being a shop manager, I have hundreds of cases of 3 years. Yeah. Okay, the guy can be fast-tracked to becoming a shop manager. So, and it is the small town guy who makes it more often than the large town guy. Small town guy is going to work harder, He's going to keep a stake in the company. If you have demonstrated that you reward people for entrepreneurship and work, they will stick to you. So I don't see any problem in talent pool. Ability to speak English may be an issue, but I don't think English is relevant. In small town India, you have to talk the local lingo. If you speak English, you lose the customer, right? So you have to be able to speak the local lingo. It is very, very important. And I think small town, large town, I'm treating India as one seamless market. There's no...
Vineet, you had...
So I think somehow, someplace I agree with Dr. Koshi saying talent is a concern. It's not about India does not have talent. I think we don't have the patience to groom the talent. There are enough young people who are coming out of any part of the country and smaller towns more, and I agree with him absolutely on that. People who are coming from small town are more hungry. They are more ready to put in the time and energy for it, because people who are coming from maybe the urban is still not as much ready for putting. They want to have faster growth. But I think the organizations will have to build the culture of growth, grooming. Sabko experience log hi chahiye. So that is the biggest challenge that we are facing. And then talent is chased by many people, right? It's just not the fashion companies are wanting fashion talent. There are various other companies, tech companies also wanting fashion talent today. So I think we'll have to build an ecosystem ourselves to figure out. And I completely agree with.
Do you have any suggestion for a small-time entrepreneur who's starting not funding, but he wants to create a fashion brand? How does he attract talent? I mean, this is a question a lot of people ask me when I'm talking to the MSMEs.
I think...
How does he get the talent? He says, I can't afford. Many a times they don't want to join small companies. Okay, I'm sitting in the hinterland.
Yeah, so I think people are not ready to make them partners. In a small business, if you don't get partners and if you do not understand that business yourself, then you'll have to get I don't know, we shy away from partnering. We want to keep it ourselves, everything, that the entire growth is ours, and that someone comes and does a job. It will not happen. That can happen with big organizations. There also today, if you look at with the e-commerce coming in, the ESOPs and others, it's not easy, right? We are a privately held company and we cannot do all this kind of fancy stuff. But we still have to attract talent. So they have to other ways to attract talent. You have to other ways to incentivize people and all. And if
Ayush, I want to come to you on this subject. You started small 5 years back. How did you attract your co-partners, co-founders?
So I have a...
Yeah, it's working.
I have two different points of view,
Keep
and
it
I'll
a
come
little
to that
closer.
your question. Yeah, I have a slightly different point of view on talent, and I'll also answer that question for you. See, I think overall, talent is there in the industry, and I don't disagree, and it doesn't matter whether they speak English or not, and they are from rural or urban. But at the same time, the honest reality of the ecosystem is that great talent is expensive. And with the amount of money being thrown in the ecosystem at this point in time, it is going to be hard, and it is the hard reality for us to acknowledge that if we do need talent, we will need to offer either an opportunity in terms of pay or in other ways so that the talent can be hired. And coming to your second point on trying to get in talent early on, and also sometimes it is the cost of the talent sector, he's right. We don't make them partners in the business. So you need to make them partners in the business. And the second question which we don't ask ourselves is, do we have great leaders who are there to groom the talent? And that's when people will follow you. So it is about the cost, there's no doubt, but it is also a lot about people being driven towards the purpose of the organization and the set of leaders who are there part of. And for us to attract talent, what worked was actually this. Just the inspiration that I left my job and was okay to take the risks, and you're getting an equity in the business is how we did get the talent in the first couple of years before we jumped into it. So yeah, that's the journey.
Yeah, Mukesh.
In FMD business, today we see a chef who's a great cook. Now he has no money to invest. So he gets a partner who's going to invest money. He runs the business. Then he gets some more partners. And I've seen many businesses running like this, and they created a lot of wealth. There are two brands. They started their first outlet. They started Now Mall. They did extremely well, but they didn't have money. But somebody recognized that this guy's got a talent. He can do great things. See, I see this in FMD happening very rapidly. They're hiring chefs, making them a partner, very small salary, but become a partner. Then there's more sense of belonging, and you know that, if I stay longer, I'm going to make more money. So I have seen this definitely happening quite a bit. I don't know the retail, they will know, but F&B, I've really seen this happening quite a bit.
No, in fact, there's a big learning for the audience here. I mean, the mindset of saying, I don't want to share, okay, and I am the owner, मैं लाला जी हूँ, and बाकी सब हमारे लिए नौकरी करते हैं. I think that has actually gone totally away. In fact, I think Sagar was talking in one of the conferences, and he said at a much later stage in his journey in Wow Momo, he got a great leader and a great partner. He gave away 10% of the share when he was already valued fairly high. So ability to let go and welcome talent within the organization, I think is very critical.
Can I just add one thing? I think we forget as entrepreneurs, whoever are, that our job is to keep selling dreams. And if you are not the best sales guy as an entrepreneur, then I'm sorry, you can't sell that dream to anyone who's wanting to join you young. So I think that's something as a job we should not forget, that it's our job to keep selling the dream. Even while we are big, as large, I'm sure Akhilesh runs such a big, every day he has to inspire people still to become bigger, right? Yeah. So it's not an easy a task today.
I think indirectly what he's saying is, there's an entrepreneurship problem. There's no talent problem.
Yeah, absolutely right. You're right. You're absolutely right. Yeah. Yeah. So Amitabh, you have another possibility. Do a session where you can actually tell people how to sell their dreams.
India has a dearth of entrepreneurs. Yeah. India doesn't have dearth of talent. If entrepreneurship is talent, yes, we have a dearth of talent.
Wonderful. Okay, I'll come to the last part.
Nagesh, just I want to make two points. One is, if you look at it, 2020 data or 2021 data, there are only two categories they did better than 2019-20. One is the food, number two is the beauty. Beauty almost doubled. Keeping in mind, offices were closed, nobody's going out, no wedding happening, no parties happening. How did it go up? Why it doubled? In my mind, this may have doubled because there's more market penetration, that means.
I can tell you why. I'll tell you why. See, because in offices, you sit at a distance of 3 feet. You can't find out the rectals and the pimples and those kind of things. But here you're sitting at 12 inches. Everybody sees your face. So either you are very well done to show your face or you're switched off.
I didn't know this.
That's the fact, no? That's the fact, come on. I'm telling you this, and this is not only for the women, sorry. I'm telling you men also. Have you seen on the screen, women doing like this, and men doing like this? Why do you have to do in a 6-inch screen here? But that is the reality, come on. Cameras becoming better, things becoming smarter. Okay, now Anish has given me some time.
I think matter of fact is beauty has one of the lowest penetrations.
Absolutely, I agree
in India. That is why the growth was there. Penetration is very, very low. We are 1/10 Thailand.
Why during lockdown?
We are 1/10 Thailand.
$14 per capita consumption of beauty in India versus Asian countries at $40 to $70 and US at $300.
I'm only looking percent. I'm not looking at absolute number.
I guess I'm sure we can't challenge your numbers because you are entering the beauty space. So I know that.
What I'm trying to say is in how it's penetrated the market.
Yeah. No, there is a. Let me just come to the last part of it. There's a lot of aspiration, ambition. There's something happening in D2C brands. Okay, we don't want to get into that. But all of you are seeing a lot of consolidation happening. Okay, I mean, Dr. Koshi has taken tens of names, but these are the names who went very well as designers. Suddenly for 5 years they lost. They didn't know what the direction was. And suddenly there's a competition between Reliance and Tata's and ABFRLs to buy these fashion brands. And there's a lot of consolidation happening. How are you visualizing this for the future?
I think I was asked this question a while back also. I think we will see tons of more entrepreneurs coming into this space. This is a very large ocean. 5, 6, 8 large companies will not be able to manage it. Maybe in the short term, there might be some consolidation, but I am very confident on the Indian business entrepreneurship that we will have many more coming in. This is a very wide business. In any part of the world cannot be consolidated with 5, 6 operators. Yes, they might become dominant operators. And I'm sure Akhilesh ji can answer more because he's the one who's acquiring the most brands. Reliance is acquiring the most brands.
ये साउथ बॉम्बे प्रॉब्लम है.
Okay, so
ये सारे लोग जो आपने मेंशन किया, टाटा's, Reliance, everybody is South Bombay. Okay, so that's the problem.
But I'll tell you one more thing. I think this is for the audience. I met an entrepreneur in India who came from US. Okay, he created a business over 3 years, a chain of coffee shops, and he sold out the business, made some $30 million and went away. So he said, when I called my Indian friends to say, you know what, I have sold my business. They said, yaar, fail ho gaya kya? And when I called my American friends to say, I've sold my business, they said, wow, come back, we'll celebrate. So somewhere I think we also get very attached to our businesses. At the end of the day, you have a purpose, you want to run a business, you created businesses as a family or a professional. There's nothing wrong in putting the business into the right
No,
hands
I think-
for it to grow.
So again, I think if you need to scale, you need
Again,
partnerships.
Nagesh, you are confusing Western values to Indian values.
No, I'm not confusing.
Okay.
I'm only
No,
stating.
no.
I leave the
No,
audience
no,
to get
let
confused.
Let me finish. I think in India, creating a business is like a child. Okay? You don't let go of it unless you have to. When does an Indian family sell jewelry or home or anything? When they are in acute distress. So it is an Indian ethos that you don't sell your business till you have to. If you can sustain, you sustain.
Akhilesh, we can have a debate on this because a lot of youngsters, and I'm sure Ayushi will be able to talk about this, a lot of youngsters who are building business, okay, are actually looking at, they want to see the business in the long term, not necessarily in their own hands. Okay, they have many purposes, but we can actually discuss that. I'm going to go to the audience.
That is a very different problem. It is free availability of investment capital.
Well,
Okay?
I
I think we generalize a lot. The problems are much more specific. So if there was capital available on tap, you wouldn't be having all these sellouts. Because when you are talking these venture capitals and all, they come at the cost of ownership.
यार capital, venture capital का थोड़ा
But
होता है,
Nagesh
Reliance
ji-
capital का भी तो होता है यार. Darshan Mehta is only buying brands.
Free capital is more expensive, I can only tell you, because then you have to sell many more things.
Agreed. So we have actually quizzed our friends on the panel, on the table, and I think it's been a very, I can go on and on and on. We can spend the whole day talking to them because so much of experience and so much of wealth of knowledge and entrepreneurship and zeal and passion. Any questions from the audience? I have 7 minutes to go. I can take 3-4 questions. Anybody who has? Yes, ma'am, please. Is there a mic there? Yeah, you have a mic there. It's working. Go ahead. Okay, can I give me one of the mics so I can? Yeah, thank you. Yeah.
Hello. Yeah. I think everywhere, when it is industry and education come together, that really makes or create an opportunity for the youngsters. We are a part of IFTI, that is
Hey,
International.
ma'am, you have to ask a question because.
Yeah.
What is the question for that?
My question is how we can enhance the industry and education relationship, because that we see lacking in India.
Industry and education partnership in India. Do you partner with fashion institutes, help them grow, do things like that?
I'm willing to partner. I have a shortage at all levels. CSAs, departmental heads, shop manager, cluster manager, area manager, state head, B&M people, designers, buyers. I have a shortage at all levels. Please send your resumes.
Other than CEO and the managing director of the company. CEO is also welcome. You know, look at this. That is the spirit of let go. Yeah. Are there people from Reliance here? Yeah. Raise your hand. There's a lot of opportunity. Your boss is throwing, saying, "Hey guys, come back." It's not only for outsiders.
Nagesh ji, can I answer one more part?
जो भी Reliance का यहाँ बैठा है ना, they are working 24/7. Ask them if they have got more than 5 hours sleep on any day for the last 1 month.
So they must be doing yoga, no? So therefore, 5 hours of sleep is more than
I
enough.
think this comment is from first table to note. That's my table. I want to answer that question once. I think I agree with you, but I think there's a big gap between what dreams you are selling as an education and what the reality is. They all want to become the next Manish Malhotra of this country or Rahul Mishra. That's not reality for everyone. That might be for the top 10%, 20%. But today, to get young kids to join organization and become buyers, as he's saying this, there's huge dearth. Everyone wants to say, I want to be the designer. So I think shop floor, why can't people start from shop floor? So I think that engagement with the industry is required to figure out the gap. I come from hotel management where the engagement was much higher. So I think as an industry, we have to come together to address this problem. I work with the Pearl Academy a little bit to do this, but more than happy to engage with many more people if you want to do.
You have got a partnership on the table.
Let me, in India, if you see our values, when a guy makes money, the first thing he does is to stop doing physical work. I may become richer, then मेरा गाड़ी के लिए एक driver रखता है. If I become richer, then the ironing guy irons for me. If I become richer, my house is cleaned by a housemaid. So the problem is that in retail, you're seen as a manual worker. and in design you're seen as a cerebral worker. These value systems that we can, and these are all creations over the last 200 years. These are not Indian systems. As we will evolve as a society, you will see equity attached to labor, and then you will see people willing to do this.
Wonderful. One more question to me. Yes, please. Yeah.
Hi, this is Ninad from JG Oziri. There was a point about talent, and the question that I have is actually based more of an observation. Is how much is there a synergy between seniors and juniors? Because I don't think there is a dearth of talent. I think there is a dearth of synergy. Because if you look at today's even a 30 or 35-year-old leader, the values and the kind of work that the work culture that he or she was exposed to when he would have started, let's say in 2000, 2005, was very, very different from the kind of expectations that a today's 22, 23-year-old person has. And that synergy is what is truly missing, is what is creating the dearth of the right equation. I don't think we as a country, there are graduates being churned out.
I got your question, but this is reality. I don't know, you look young, maybe in your 30s, but if you are in the 50s, you're 43, well done. But if you are a 50 to 60, you have a daughter at 22, a different generation, and a 15 and a different generation, and a mother-in-law of 85, different generation. So you have to learn how to match.
No, so when we were 22, 23, there wasn't any lack of synergy between us and our bosses. But I see that surely in today's generation. I don't know if that's only my observation.
What do you mean by synergy?
Synergy is in the expectations of work culture, in the expectations of what do you expect as a reward for work. I think the current generation is a lot more impatient.
Reward for work has only improved over time, not.
I'll tell you what, why don't you give an example? How do you deal with the 20s and the 21 youngsters who join in your company? Do you interact with them? Do they get a
finite opportunities? Acha kaam karo, reward is immediate. That's all.
Acha kaam karo, that 18 by 24 by 7. That's the message.
Kaam karo. Don't think ki,
It's about an organization culture where...
I think, it's the organization culture that you has to keep evolving. Something when we started, I will say 14 years back as an organization culture was very different to what we are today as an... And this, I think every organization has a journey, and it's upon the CEOs and the entrepreneurs that they're adapt to that. And I think how close are they to these guys? I think how much are you interacting? Because please understand, sorry to say, I don't know, there must be many middle managers here. The middle managers are not ready to take the risk of changing the culture of the organization. It is the entrepreneur's responsibility, it is the CEO's responsibility. It's your responsibility to groom talent and get that done. And I agree with Akhilesh. End of the day, good results will only give you good growth and everything.
The opportunities today are 10x from what it was 20 years back. What we achieved in 20 years, the guys can achieve in 2 years, provided you're able to pack in that much within 2 years. So don't expect a 2-year reward for what was essentially done over 20 years. Do in 2 years what was done over 20 years, and you'll get the rewards. Culture will be the same.
You know what happened to the youngsters in a hurry? Youngsters in a great hurry. They want to jump every 3 months, 6 months. They don't have patience. They don't want to work long hours. As Vinit said, I'm a hotel guy.
I think a lot of people, we are all oldies here, so I think we are going to defend this. Okay, let me close this across. Amitabh, I think what you should do is, sometime in the next conference, let's get 3 people in the 18 to 20s or 21s who have joined the company. Let's get us 3 people who are 25 to 30, 40. Let's get 3 of us oldies. And let's have a debate, no? Because it's nice for us to say they are not.
You'll be surprised. They might have quit over the quality of the vada pav rather than the job.
Possible. So let's hear them out. But anyhow, thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen. We had a wonderful, wonderful session. Thank you to all our panelists.